All right, sorry for that all. It's 11:30 and we will get started with today's pre-commission agenda. So first for the president's report, I want to recognize Director Head, who recently celebrated 15 years with the district. Just really appreciate your leadership and knowledge and expertise and your years of commitment to serving the residents of Ada County. And just appreciate your work every day. And Jen Bingham has something for you and would invite in the break everybody to have a treat on a celebratory treat.
Hang around.
You want to?
I agree. Director, your leadership here at the district has been instrumental for the past 15 years with our integrated 5-year work program and the partnership with our agencies. You've just done a tremendous job, and we can't wait to see where you take ACHD in the future. So congratulations.
Thanks, Director. I will ask if commissioners have any comments or any general housekeeping items or
Madam
discussion
President,
on the agenda. Yes, Commissioner McKinney.
I do have a question on item number 3 on the consent agenda, just a question. So I don't know if we want to take care of that now or. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. Director, on this resolution on this dump truck, I noticed that it indicated that it was declared surplus property in May of 2023. Why is it only now being taken care of? I was just curious what got in the way.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, and I'll look to our fleet manager here to answer that question for you.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. For the record, Joe Schoen, Fleet Manager. So Madam President, Commissioner, we had declared this surplus. We kept it in use for a little bit longer. And unfortunately, that's when the hydraulic system failed on the truck. Therefore, it took a little while for us to figure out what action we were going to take on the truck.
Okay, so was it just recently that the hydraulic system failed and it's been repaired, or are we selling it as is?
Last August, it failed and we are selling it as is.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments about the agenda? All righty, then I'll turn it over to Director Head for the director's report.
Well, thank you, Madam President, Commission. Thank you for the recognition. It's been an honor and truly one of the greatest joys of my life. When I came to ACHD, I had this like conscious decision: am I okay being hated? I don't know if that was what that was, why I had that, but I do remember very specifically that. But I have loved the opportunity to be here and to work with this wonderful team and to enjoy the opportunities that you all have granted me to help lead and invest in our community. So thank you. So today's director's report, just a few items I want to share with you as an update. As we focus continually on building infrastructure for the community and so that we can make those key connections. I had the pleasure this morning. This is the first time I've seen the picture real big, but whatever face I'm making there. So, but I had the pleasure this morning to speak at the AGC ITD Spring Conference, giving an update on ACHD. Also got to hear Director Stokes and his presentation, and it was we were pretty lockstep in the things that we're concerned about and the things that we're trying to do, and the investments we're trying to make for our community. So it was a wonderful opportunity to be there and to visit with them. But Commission, I wanted to take a few moments to talk about the Eckert Bridge. I emailed you earlier this week and with the great news that the bridge was open. I have invited here today the team who was involved in that because I think it's important. First, I'll share a few thoughts here, but wanted to recognize the team behind me who made this all possible. And we'll talk about that more in a second. Commissioners, 39 days. It's been 39 days since it was closed to when it was reopened. That is incredible, incredible work. That included permitting, that included coordination and securing materials, that included all the different pieces of this. I want to first recognize Todd Berlisle. Todd, can you stand up? Todd was our lead on site and directing all the work that occurred, which included directing even ITD teams, right? Because we had ITD on site there with us who was working side by side. Talking to Director Stokes this morning, he was like, he mentioned the fact that when you went there, you couldn't tell the difference. Everyone was working so closely together on this. But I just want to ask everyone who participated in stand up, please, who was part of this project. As a district, we owe a lot to this team. They work seven days a week, extended time, a lot of long hours in cold water, in cold conditions. They made this a priority because they cared and they care about our community, and they accomplished such incredible work. And I just wanted to recognize them today for that and let them know there's cheesecake for them, right? That's why we're here, right? For that. Commissioners, I didn't know if you had any comments or thoughts on that that you wanted to say to the team.
Commissioners? Yeah, Commissioner Nelson.
Yeah, I just want to say in terms of being the commissioner for District 1, where the bridge is located, I've just heard nothing but positive feedback from the neighborhood groups, citizens. The only person that I know I will catch some grief from is someone who lives right next to the bridge and has really enjoyed the peace and quiet of it being closed. But I'm just going to tell him he's going to have to party when for all the workers who will work on the replacement bridge in a few years. So again, I want to thank you. It was a real kind of shining moment, I think, for the district and everyone involved in it. So thank you very much.
Commissioner McKinney?
Yeah, I just want to say good work. Thank you. And I got to visit the site while the work was going on and see what was happening. And it was fascinating to see how it was being done and how well the work was being done. So I appreciate everything. Thanks so much.
Commissioner Coulter?
You know, I don't get me wrong, but when it can take 3 years to scope, design, have public input, bid, and construct a mile of sidewalk, and to get this done in 39 days, it is just absolutely awesome.
New standard, right?
Yeah, I think that's such an outstanding example of partnership and coordination, and just really appreciate everybody's hard work on this. Really sincere thank you.
Thank you. Also wanted to express thank you to our partners who were there. This is a fun little photo that I got from Dan McElhaney from ITD. ITD truly was incredible. We will have a special letter that we're going to send on to them as well as to the county for the partnership we had. Them helping us with securing the materials, doing the design of this repair was a tremendous level of commitment and partnership. It's always fun when the project goes so fast before you even have the agreement for how we're going to cooperate on it. comes before you. So that's on the agenda today, but good faith, right? Good faith efforts on their part that they had confidence in us, and we're so grateful for them. We're also extremely grateful for the county for opening up Eckert Park for us to, they dedicated space for us to use. We had a warming tent in there for the team just so they were able to get out of the cold from time to time, and they just were constant in providing us that support. So, and then you see all the permitting agencies and partners who were at the table with us as well. So just a tremendous opportunity and time to celebrate for that. Just a few more projects wanted to share with you. This was a project that was a priority from our advisory committees, asking for this Bogus Basin, Harrison Hill Road intersection to be improved so it's accessible. And so we were able to install accessible pedestrian signals there this week, and just grateful for that improvement for the community. We also wanted to just let you know that the work at 16th and Washington is ongoing. We're excited for that safety improvement to occur there for students who walk back and forth regularly, including my own kids who walk back and forth from the high school to the grocery store. It's a key place for students to walk, and that safe route to school is an important priority and improvement that we're seeing there. Also wanted to give you the heads up as we anticipate we're going to be making a change out on State Street in the next few days as the construction's ongoing there at State and Pierce Park. There will be a change that there will not be left outs coming off of Pierce Park Lane onto States, or no, sorry, left ins. Both. Okay. So no left turns. That's what it says right there on the screen. I should follow my own prompt there. But this obviously will have an impact, but a lot of work has gone into the detour routes and improving those and making sure that we don't result in a lot of added impact to the neighborhood there. But this is a big change coming this week, and just wanted to make sure that was recognized. Also, one of the things I spoke about this morning were some of the big projects that are ongoing for construction. Our downtown Eagle Mobility Project is happening. A lot of good work that's occurring there. Eagle Lake Hazel, you can see the progress there on the construction, in particular on that retaining wall that was needed. If you recall, we had to raise the road, what was it, 14 feet, something to that? A lot of feet. We'll just go with that. To be able to meet the federal compliance of that intersection. And so that work is ongoing and making good progress. We also have a lot of good work happening out at Ustick Black Cat to 10 Mile and at that intersection. It's fun to see and to have such a big year of construction projects, with another one on the agenda today at Overland and Linder and the first phase of that overpass project. And so it's fun to have a really big construction year like this and all these major projects. Also wanted to just recognize our procurement team. It's National Procurement Month. Obviously, we couldn't do what we do without them. All the work that they do to issue all the contracts, to make sure the work is done legally and professionally, that we get the best bids for the work that we're able to do. They are a tremendous team, and we're grateful to them for that. With that, Commission, I'd stand for any questions.
Commissioner Nielsen.
Yeah, thank you, Director Head. I did had opportunity to do a walk and roll event with the ADA Advisory Committee and the Ped and Bike and at 16th and Washington, and that all looked great. And I just want to say I really appreciated having an opportunity to participate as a member of that committee. And I wanted to also say the committee recognized Commissioner Goldthorpe and his work on that over the past couple of years. So, and with regard to the downtown Eagle, we did hear from a committee member yesterday, and I appreciate Dave will follow up on whether or not there seems to be a perfect storm maybe with that project, other activity in downtown Eagle, that they've lost a lot of the disabled parking. So he's going to follow up with that, and I appreciate that.
Wonderful.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Director. With that, we'll be at ease for the next 15 minutes. And again, everybody can join us over here for some cheesecake and cookies. All right, welcome everybody. It's now 12 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Thanks to all for joining us in person online, and please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Okay, and do we have a
Second.
second? All right, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. I don't believe that we have any requests to move any of those items, so is there a motion?
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. That moves us to the regular agenda. We do not have any items. So next up is discussion items. Public communication. Are there any members of the public in person or online that have comments today? Seeing none. Meeting is adjourned. Next is the post-commission agenda. We've got a couple of work sessions. First is the ACHD Connect presentation, and we have Allie Ornelas or Shandy.
Madam President, Commissioners, I am just here to introduce Allison Ornelas, who is our communications intern. Allie is a senior at Boise State, and she's studying integrated media and strategic communication. She's been with us for about a year and a half. She's a fantastic success story of our internship program and has done a phenomenal job. This is a very large project, so for us to have an intern up here really speaks to the fact that our interns do big work here. It is not just making photocopies and getting people coffee. They are hands-on doing everything. So Allie has been an integral part of implementing our new ACHD Connect tool with the oversight of Emma Bowers, who's also here to answer any questions that you might have. But I just wanted to introduce Allie. We keep asking if she's wanting, interested in getting her master's or just continue school because we don't want to lose her. But wherever she lands after graduating this spring, they will be so lucky to have her. So I just want to introduce Allie for you.
Thanks, Shandy. Welcome, Allie.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, I am Allison Ornelas, Communications Intern, and I am very grateful to be here today talking about the solution C-Click Fix.
Could
Which
you move the microphone down just a little bit? Great.
A little short.
Thank you.
So this solution will replace our current customer management tool, TELUS. So this system will be called lovingly ACHD Connect, which this gives this describes the name in general, which is what we want to do with the tool, connecting the residents with us in a smoother and more convenient way. So before we dive into the new solution, let's talk about the current system. So our current system, TELUS, has been in place since 2016. While this software is used through Laserfish, and it is a very powerful tool for data and documentation, it is not intended for customer service management. While our IT team has done a very, very great job over the years making it work, ultimately we have outgrown its capabilities. So on average, your ACHD team receives 5,000 TELUS messages each year, and those are responded to by approximately 149 subject matter experts. And our ultimate goal with this is to make things easier on the residents when they are submitting an issue or asking questions. And our secondary goal is to make things easier on our staff by responding to these as easy and efficient as they can. And at the end of the day, this customer management system is an extension of our front lobby. And our goal is to assist these people as if they walked into the building, creating a welcoming and accessible environment for them all. So right now, residents will have to submit questions and feedback through the online portal through TELUS, and they can call in, but these calls aren't logged in any system. So this is really difficult for multi-question requests to be sent to the right team. So in ACHD Connect, requests can be submitted in 5 different ways: the classic web browser, the email, a downloadable custom app, phone call, and text. And all of these requests are logged in the same system. So if a resident calls and follows up on a ticket, we can just add it to their existing ticket. Next, we're going to watch a short little video that illustrates the current process. So as you can see, currently every ticket begins with our front desk administration specialist. Then from there, they read the ticket to determine which department it needs to go to. And then from there, the TELUS may be sent to an admin, and then before reaching the subject matter expert could be sent to another admin. There's a lot of forwarding, which we knew was a great opportunity for automation. So in our minds, if someone reports a pothole, it should go straight to the maintenance team. This is a new tool that can help streamline this process. While residents are able to submit requests and questions under an anonymous profile, we will encourage them to create a profile, which this profile will allow them to track the current status of their requests and see if they've been closed, just in one place. These profiles will also allow for us internally to see the history of a customer's requests and all of the tickets that they have opened. So these profiles will also allow for back and forth communication. Sometimes our staff needs additional information from the customer about a concern in order to best address it. In the outdated TELUS system, there was no easy way for a follow-up question. Once a ticket was closed, a resident would need to open up a whole new ticket in order to answer or to ask a follow-up question. And this leads to duplication as the process starts all over again. While in ACHD Connect, back and forth communication is available in the web browser, email, app, and text message. And it doesn't stop there. Back and forth communication is also available for internal. So we're thrilled that the ACHD Connect system allows for communication amongst staff. So this eliminates further internal emails or phone calls. So having these conversations in the system will also allow to see the history of a resolution for that ticket. So thanks to our stellar GIS team, we now have very powerful mapping capabilities. So right now we often get duplicate requests and tell us about the same issue. A great example of this is pothole days. So when there is a pothole, it could be requested multiple times. So this causes inefficiencies, creating multiple tickets that the staff need to respond to. In ACHD Connect, we will allow the system to show residents a PIN that has already been placed in a specific area in a specific issue, and they can follow along with the ticket and see the status of it rather than creating a whole new message. And another benefit of this mapping is that it prevents tickets from being submitted from outside our jurisdiction. So we regularly receive tickets and issues that don't fall within our purview. A great example is ITD roadways or city streetlights. So once a customer puts in the PIN, they will be notified before submitting whether or not it's our jurisdiction. And because customer service is always the top of mind, we have given them easy numbers and links to get where they need to go to submit that request. And then once that system confirms that that PIN and address and the issue is ACHD's, from there it will be pushed to the correct admin or group. But the automation doesn't stop there. It also allows, depending on where the issue is within our jurisdiction, it'll goes to a specific maintenance yard, and that streamlines the process even further. The mapping functionality also allows ACHD to gather more accurate data and identify hotspots. So with our old system, it's a very tedious process to track down old teleses or reports. And in this system, we can run reports automatically based on location or issue type. So we can see a certain area if there's been a large amount of reports there. We can see if there's a different solution that needs to be in place. We can also give you regular reports based on your districts. So upon launch, you will begin receiving reports for submissions in your district regularly. So we're also making a couple of new additions. So near miss reports was a request from the commission to better see where areas of concern are in the county. So this category has been added, and reports will be provided to our safety engineering team on a monthly basis. Also new is the active projects category, which will allow customers to submit any questions, any concerns that will route to the appropriate project team. And this also allows the public to see just how many projects are going on in Ada County. Our staff members have been training to use the new system before and smoothing a really smooth launch. So far, we've had 3 trainings, 2 Q&A sessions, and they've been working in our sandbox test environment. So this will help them just make sure that they feel comfortable in the system, and check-ins with these teams are being scheduled to see how the process is going for them. And we are doing a 3-step launch. We've already done a soft launch with some of our most involved residents, our business owners, and our advisory group members. These folks have begun to use the system last week and to submit real tickets in real time. It's one thing to test the environment with employees and internal staff, but when you're really getting real requests, it's a lot better practice. Our testers will be providing us feedback and any issues and bugs that they've seen along the way. We will begin a medium launch on March 17th. And this will transition the achdIdaho.org/tellus page to the new ACHD Connect system. Users will no longer be able to see this, but pending requests in TELUS will still be resolved. On our hard launch, which is estimated to occur in April, will include extensive outreach and education to promote the new tool. We want to keep in mind, we want to keep our residents, they're top of mind, this tool, and also our agencies. So newsletters, emails, website updates, social media posts are all planned along, as well as videos and QR codes in high traffic areas to let the residents know the best way that they can get in touch with us. And outreach will highlight new offerings from SeeClickFix as well. And again, we're excited for our medium launch on March 17th, lucky day being St. Patrick's Day. And this concludes my presentation. I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Allison. Any questions? Commissioner Goldberg?
There is a tradition around here. You may not know about it, but you may. Thank you. And there will be a couple of bonus points if you come back to work here.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Commissioner McKinney?
Allie, thank you for your presentation. Just a couple of quick questions. Do we know of other agencies that are using the same system?
Madam President, Commissioner, I am unaware of that, but I do have Emma Bowers here that would be willing to answer that question.
Okay.
Madam President, Commissioners, to our knowledge, no, they are not, but we have been in touch with them and have been praising the efforts of Civic Plus, who owns the SeeClickFix product, to hopefully get them on board as well if they're looking for a new solution. We have been in touch also with ITD and talking up the system because a lot of the teleses that come in are for them. So it would be really nice to have a joint system or to be able to even more smoothly connect those two jurisdictions, but not right now.
Okay. Well, and of course, I know the coordination with other agencies is an issue there, but I was also wondering, does this system have a track record is kind of what I'm after. What do we know about how well it's working in other places, for example?
Oh, so we did, we're a part of a government social media community on Facebook. And so when we were doing demos, we reached out to learn about other people's experiences and how well it was working for them. Not just for See Click Fix, but for other solutions that we were looking at. So based on their feedback and our own experience in the demos, this is the one that we went with.
Okay, so there are a lot of other agencies that are using this, and that was the
Yes.
reason we went after it in the first place.
Yes, not necessarily just our area, but
Right.
more broadly, yeah.
Nationwide. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And this one has proven to be successful and useful and efficient and so on across wherever it's being used?
Madam President, Commissioner, I'm not necessarily a numbers person, but more, we have heard great things, and we have also been in touch with other agencies who are looking for other solutions. And so this is the cream of the crop that we wanted because of all of the things that it can do and how much more efficient it makes other agencies. And so we're hoping to replicate that here.
Okay. And if I may, and I don't know if this may not be you may not be the one to ask this question, but I'm curious about the cost of this system and implementing it.
Mhm.
Is that something that we put in, that's something that's part of our current year budget, and this is all just part of the plan? What's it costing to implement this new system?
Sure, Madam President, Commissioner. I know that we had those numbers when I presented last year. I'm happy to find that number for you. I did not have that prepared today. But it is in our budget, but the implementation was a part of a package with our branding and our website. So this is still residual from that.
Okay, well, then maybe, and this is just kind of a general comment, we've got some launch dates here. I suppose it would make sense, once we get past those launch dates, that we kind of have a follow-up and come back and we could talk about all the issues, what we found from the launches and the costs and so on. I think that would be informative for us.
Madam President, Commissioner, I'd be happy to give a launch update for you next month or 6 weeks or so.
Be great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Ally. This is great. I'm just going to warn you, 19 years ago, I worked with an intern, and now he's the ACHD director. So you never know where your career path may lead. So, but two thoughts I had. The QR codes out in there, they're might be interesting to work with Sean and Dave and the ADA committee on pairing those up with I'll butcher the name, the auditory pedestrian crossings or something, so that visually impaired would know that QR code would be there. And then second, it might be nice, you get as a commissioner and as staff, you get people coming up to you about this or that. Be nice to hand them maybe a business card with the QR code on it or something like that, just to, direct people there so that their issue, I listen, but I always ask people if you can put it in TELUS, so you'll get a pretty quick staff response. So if we had something with the QR code, that'd be really helpful. Thanks.
Madam President, Commissioner, thank you for
Yeah.
that suggestion. We'll definitely keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ally. Great
Yeah,
work
great.
and great job. I think this is really exciting. Clearing up the communications of TELUS, I think, is really exciting and important. And also the mapping and reporting capabilities that this will have, I think, will be really helpful to us just as we work through issues and make decisions and all of that. So really appreciate your presentation and look forward to this being released to the public and to getting updates and reports and all of that. So thank you.
Madam President, Commissioners, thank you so much.
All right, next up, we have a work session, impact fee, capital improvement plan update, traffic analysis period presentation by staff. Welcome, Edinson.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Edinson Bautista, Senior Transportation Planner here at the Ada County Highway District. I'm here, I'm the co-manager alongside with Megan Anderson, ACC Impact Fee Administrator, for the Impact Fee and Capital Improvement Plan update. In today's meeting, staff and the consultant, Sonia Delayden, from Kittleson and Associates, are back again in front of the Commission to continue the presentation series on the Impact Fee and CAP Preliminary Analysis task. So far in this series, we have touched different topics covering the service areas back in May and July of 2024, the impact fee eligibility for a range of projects in October 2024, and impact fee eligibility for collectors earlier this year on January 2025. Today, we're continuing this series with the topic of traffic analysis period. Through this presentation, we will provide information of what is defined in the Idaho Development Impact Fee Act, an overview of ACG current practice related to traffic analysis, present findings from that peer analysis review, and provide recommendations to the Commission on this topic. And with that said, I will turn the time over to Sonia, who will lead us in today's presentation.
Welcome, Sonia.
Thank you. President Gold, Commissioners, as Edinson said, I'm Sonia Delayden with Kittleson and Associates, and pleased to be with you here today for the next installment on our work sessions as part of the 2025 Impact Fee and Capital Improvement Plan update. As Edinson said, today's focus is the fourth and final topic area that we completed for our best practice review, which is traffic analysis time period. For more context, when we discuss time period, we're referring to the time period and data that we use to complete the transportation analysis for a needs identification and the project identification that goes into the capital improvement plan. As we've done with the other topic areas, let's start with the requirements in the Idaho Development Impact Fee Act and what it says related to analysis time period. There's really three components within the Impact Fee Act that relate to the analysis for your CIP. First, the Impact Fee Act outlines that projects must be identified based on capacity compared to demand. It also says that projects and fees must be determined based on a level of service standard that's adopted by the agency. And finally, your CIP document must include a description of what that adopted acceptable level of service is that you have as an agency. So what do these requirements mean for ACHD and how you currently define those parameters that are outlined in the Impact Fee Act? So first, let's talk about peak hour. Peak hour is the hour of the day that on average has the highest number of vehicles on your transportation system or at a specific location. We don't look at the highest hour of an entire year. We look at the average highest throughout the course of a year, so averaged over the course of many days. And typically what we find on our system here in Ada County is that it's a 1 hour period between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., captures commuting traffic, captures after school traffic, and that's typically when our peak hours occur. What is capacity? Capacity is the maximum number of vehicles that travel through a given location, whether that be an intersection or a roadway segment during this peak hour. So theoretically, what is the maximum number of vehicles that could go through a location? And it's influenced by a number of factors such as the number of lanes that are provided, the conflicting volume that is experienced, what type of intersection control is in place at an intersection location, signal timing, things like that. What is demand? And demand is the actual volume of vehicles. So while capacity is the theoretical maximum number that could go through, demand is the actual counted number of vehicles that travel through that given location during the peak time period. And demand is typically influenced by things like the surrounding land uses, the growth that we're experiencing, and also the surrounding transportation network, how many options people have to go to where they need to get to. And then finally, adopted level of service standard. ACHD's current adopted level of service standard is peak hour based. So that is in your adopted level of service. And your adopted standard is a demand to capacity ratio of 90%. So basically, no more than 90% of your capacity is being used at that given time, or that translates to level of service E or better. Now let's discuss ACHD's current practice for completing the roadway and intersection analysis as part of the CIP. This slide shows the process that we go through as part of the CIP analysis to document both existing conditions as well as future conditions, which then translate into the list of future projects that are needed to serve the growth anticipated over the CIP timeframe. An important part of this process you can see is that the first half of it typically happens outside of ACHD. So it's with our land use agency partners establishing their growth patterns and growth projections, and then which feeds into Compass's regional travel demand model. And then we then get the output from that model to then complete that demand and capacity analysis and then compare it to your established thresholds. I will point out that the information that comes out of the Compass model is peak hour based. That is what they can provide us, as well as, again, when we run our analysis and compare it to your current adopted standard, that is also peak hour based. As we have with the other best practice areas, we completed a national peer review of other agencies and what they do as it relates to their CIP analysis. And that review found that all of the other agencies we were able to review and find were also using the peak hour to identify their long-range capacity needs, to create their capital improvement plan, and also to establish their transportation impact fees. So what you're doing is currently very consistent with what most other agencies, all other agencies we were able to review are doing throughout the country. Now let's shift to the questions that you as a commission, as well as your Capital Investment Citizens Advisory Committee asked as part of the visioning process that we completed for this project on the topic of analysis time period. The key questions that came out related to this topic were, is planning for peak hour still the most common practice for CIP and other long-range plans? What are the outcomes of planning our transportation system for peak hour needs? And are roadways being overbuilt by the focus on a peak hour analysis? So we'll walk through these questions. We can start with this first one. Is planning for peak hour still the most common practice for the CIP and other long-range plans? The simple answer to this question is yes. As I mentioned earlier, all of the peer agencies that we reviewed from around the country also use peak hour for their analysis for their capital improvement plans and their other long-range planning. The inputs and data that we use for this type of analysis are typically peak hour based. So that's anything from the highway capacity manual that's used for traffic analysis to the ITE trip generation manual. Those are all typically peak hour based as well. And then, as we said, ACHD's adopted policy and acceptable level of service thresholds are also currently peak hour based. Our next question was, what are the outcomes of planning our transportation system for peak hour needs? So this question is, the answer to this question is probably a little more nuanced and a little more complicated than that first question. First, we need to take a look at where the CIP falls in terms of the many layers of transportation planning that ACHD will take a project through before it's actually implemented. this graphic shows those many steps. The CIP is probably the highest level countywide plan that ACHD has. And its purpose is really to serve as a funding strategy to allow you to establish traffic impact fees to use as one part of your overall funding strategy. At the CIP level, there are times when a focus on peak hour is important. Your CIP and your impact fee, as I said, are really a financial planning tool to address the impacts of future growth and be able to address it in a way that still maintains that established acceptable level of service. Most commute trips, those trips that happen during the peak hour, are not discretionary. Most residents need to get to work and come home from work at a certain time. They don't always have a lot of choice in when that is. Same thing for when they need to take their kids to school or pick their kids up from school. They need to be at certain locations at a designated time when they need to be there. And finally, as we look countywide, most of the input you get from your partner agencies and the public, that feedback does support that they would like to maintain those acceptable levels of service during the peak hour. But at more refined project levels, once we move past the CIP and down towards implementation, we know that there become many variables and many other performance metrics that then become important, and you do need to weigh into your decisions. Things like costs, safety, the specific input and context on individual projects and from the local community. And so there are many other levels where beyond the CIP, as you get towards implementation, where those other performance metrics can be weighed in and can be considered through your process. So our third question was, are roadways being overplanned by our focus on a peak hour? Again, I don't think this question has a simple answer for you, but as you know from your day-to-day work on the commission and planning and implementing our transportation system, it's really a continuous balance of trade-offs and priorities depending on the individual project. If we look simply, ACHD's current adopted standard is peak hour based. So if that's the standard we have adopted to meet, we're not overbuilding or over planning by using that standard and moving that standard through our process. But we do know that ACHD has multiple steps prior to implementation for input and to balance priorities for each facility after we complete the CIP. ACHD's implementation is also always guided by input from partner agencies as well as the public. And we do know that general public sentiment is that congestion does exist on our transportation system and that they are feeling the impacts of future growth or current growth, and that we know that growth will continue in the future. But we also know you need to balance those trade-offs with project costs and impacts that continue to become an increasing challenge. We know that safety is a priority for all users of our transportation system, and we know that ACHD has the broad responsibility for transportation beyond just vehicle capacity. And while data and standards are not in place today to look at things beyond peak hour, those could be there in the future. So based on all of those considerations and how we investigated those questions, we do come to you today with a recommendation for our analysis as part of the 2025 CIP and impact fee update. And that is for this update to maintain the current practice based on peak hour. It is consistent with the available inputs and data that we have at this time. And it's also consistent with ACHD's currently adopted standard of service that is peak hour based. But we also recommend that you continue applying those other detailed metrics such as cost and safety as appropriate to your layered planning decisions based on context, priorities, and the constraints that come up through project development. And we can evaluate CIP changes, potentially doing something different than peak hour in the future with future updates. This document is updated every 4 years. if data, methodologies, and other proven examples from around the country emerge on this topic of analysis time period. Before I open it up to your questions and input, I do want to give you a preview of where we're moving with the CIP document, the CIP process. So as this graphic shows right now, we're still in the process of doing these report backs on our detailed evaluation topics with both you and the CICAC. But as we move past this fourth and final work session topic, we will be moving quickly into the next stages of the CIP, and that is actual project identification and project costing. So we expect to be back here later this spring to share with you the outcomes of that evaluation. And then very early this summer, we will be coming back to you to receive your direction on these focus areas that we've been talking about: service area, range of projects, collectors, and analysis time period. We are doing it in this order because we believe it's best for your decision-making, for you to have the actual projects that will be part of the CIP and the actual costs that will be associated with the CIP to make those final recommendations. And once we receive your direction early this summer, we'll be moving to create a draft CIP that can then go out for public comment and review. And our objective is to have a final CIP document ready for your review before the end of the year. And my final slide, just to wrap up, we do feel, based on our previous work sessions, we got very clear direction from you on the collector roadways topic. We are obviously welcoming your input and direction on the analysis time period topic today. And so when we do come back to you with our list of projects and project costs and then looking for your direction, we feel we're really going to be focusing that evaluation on some scenarios as it relates to service area, and maybe adjusting the % of impact fee eligibility for certain project components. We feel that those are really the two key topics that we think you're looking for a range of scenarios to make a final decision and direction on. So also wanted to confirm that with you today. Make sure our understanding is consistent with your understanding as well. And so with that, welcome your input and questions on both the analysis time period topic as well as where we're going next with the CIP.
Thanks, Sonia. Yeah. Commissioners, Commissioner Nelson.
You saw me touch my microphone. Okay, Sonia, I need a little help here just to get my head in the game. And maybe a history lesson from staff. So the standard, the level of service E, I remember vaguely years and years ago, it used to be D. And so what is the trigger for communities to change that? And are there more populated areas that have a peak hour F or beyond? So I need some context for the E.
Yeah, Commissioner Gold or President Gold and Commissioner Nilsson, great question. I'm not the person to give you ACHD context, but what I will say is an acceptable level of service standard is really a policy decision that each community makes. Some communities, will say that C is their standard. I think you might see that in small communities with very little traffic congestion. Other communities, major metropolitan areas, they may say that as long as things are under capacity, less than 100%, that's our acceptable level of standard. But it's really a policy decision that each community, people sitting in your seats for each community, need to make based on input from the public, balancing all those trade-offs that they have in their system. So I don't know, I'll turn and let maybe Justin answer the specific question about moving from D to E.
Yeah, and I'm not proposing anything. I'm just trying to be mindful of what triggers that change.
Madam President, members of the commission, Commissioner Nielsen, for the record, Justin Lucas. Glad to do my best on the history lesson. We've gone through different iterations over time and updates to the CIP. So historically, ACHD has relied on analysis and standards that were developed by the state of Florida through their Department of Transportation, which is not uncommon for, for other states and things like that across the nation. Florida's done a lot of work in this area over the years, and we relied on a lot of that work, which is where the E and the D and all the VC ratios and things that we work on come from. Our collector standard is still D, and then we have E for minor arterials and principal arterials. I'm not aware of any community that sets their level of service standard at F. I think what the scenario happens there, which we do also, is we will establish corridors that we essentially identify for no further improvement, essentially saying that we will accept level of service degradation beyond our standards, our thresholds on certain corridors. So that's what we call constrained corridors. And those are identified in the CIP. There will be a map, and there will be a map this time around of constrained corridors where we essentially say, although these roadways may not meet our level of service thresholds due to land use context and previous investments and a lot of other reasons, we're just choosing not to further improve those corridors. So I hope that helps answer the
Yeah,
question.
that helped. The constrained corridor concept. I knew there was a, this is it, scenario for some of that. And then one other thing, Sonia, that you can help me with. When we say peak hour, are we looking at traffic, not for an entire hour, but are we looking at 15 minutes or the work? Can you just talk about how that's calculated?
Yep. President Gold, Commissioner Nelson, great question. So peak hour is obviously a 60-minute period because it is an hour. In certain traffic analyses, we also apply something we call a peak hour factor, which essentially takes the 60 minutes of traffic and tries to find what were the busiest 15 minutes within that busiest hour. So it's sort of looking at the worst 15 minutes out of the worst hour. And that is something some certain traffic analysis procedures do when consultants prepare traffic impact studies for your developments. That is part of your policy for traffic impact studies. I will say when we're looking at a high-level countywide plan such as this and 20 years in the future, we do not go to that level of conservative analysis for this particular analysis that we're doing here.
Okay. I have one more follow-up. This is something else I struggle with, so thanks for tolerating my questions. But Justin and Compass, I've been worried about areas in my district that seem to be still within the 2050 forecast, but they're closing in on it in 2025, so that they're developing or growing faster. So when we say existing and then 2050, should I be concerned about that relative to the CIP? So just something that kind of keeps me up at night a little bit.
I'll try, and then Justin can correct me or add to this. So President Gold, Commissioner Nielsen, we are basing this so our CIP is actually going to be 2025 to 2045, but we're basing it on Compass's adopted land use designations that they have in their 2045 model. When we bring you the list of projects, we will also be bringing that to you with the context of here are the areas that the Compass model designated with growth for households, for jobs, and show you how that map looks so you can see how it correlates to where projects have been identified. And if at that time both staff is reviewing that, the CICAC is reviewing that, if you review that and you're not comfortable with how growth is being designated in that time period, we obviously can take a look at that and adjust things accordingly if needed.
Okay, thank you. And Madam President, just a comment. I always want to make sure it's easy to get caught up in a CIP of making investments to handle growth, but we also have investments to help the people who live here today. So that's kind of the eye that I'll look at when we see the list too, is what's the current situation as of today versus 2050. So it's just something I always try to be mindful of.
And Madam
Yeah.
President, Commissioner Nielsen, I would just add, this is why we update it every four years. It's these changes that can occur in the demographic patterns. I'll just give a few examples. Federal legislation that led towards micron expansion, totally not anticipated within ACHD's last CIP. A new high school that's approved and located in a, rural part of Ada County that then draws from more urban parts of Ada County. Sometimes those types of things not anticipated in ACHD's CIP. So what we do is we react as best we can in the moment, and then we kind of reconcile those things through the CIP process with Compass and those demographic updates. So point well taken, and it's certainly built into the process of trying to keep track of all that.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Sonia. I do have one question, and this might be a weird question, but one of the things that you mentioned is all other agencies, including Compass, use this type of modeling. So if we were to pursue a different type of analysis, like how might that interact since, this is how we get this information? Does that make sense?
It does, yes, President Gold, it's a great question. If the district wanted to proceed in a different manner, for example, do some sort of daily profile of volumes and see, for each hour, what do things look like? One of two things would need to happen. Either the district would need to work with Compass to change their model, which currently gives you either peak hour or the entire day, but not individual, slices of the hour throughout the day, which would be, a pretty substantial effort for them to undertake. Or you, as a district yourself, would need to take the Compass model and develop a model within a model to do something like that for Ada County specifically. So it can be done. It would be quite a large lift.
Sure, go through.
Having brought up that weird question wasn't bad. I can see that a real necessity, if for no other reason than, wow, that would look really great for this area or this project. I don't see how we would have to modify an entire plan just to take one project or area and do that very thing to give us more information. It wouldn't have to impact Compass, wouldn't have to impact anything but that small segment or in that small bit of time. So maybe I just don't understand things well enough, but I think I do understand that it's our staff's capability and our authority to take a look at whatever we want.
President Gold, Commissioner, you absolutely can. And even if we don't do this for the CIP process, it doesn't stop you from, you might remember on the State Street Corridor project, we actually did a 24-hour capacity analysis and looked at each time of day. What does that look like? How many hours of the day are at capacity or over capacity? So when you're dealing with a constrained corridor that comes a project that comes across your priorities, it doesn't stop you from doing it at all at those times. And actually, that's probably the most realistic and most useful time to do it when you're down at that individual corridor level, balancing a lot of different input and constraints and trying to figure out how are we going to juggle and balance these priorities.
Yeah, thanks, Sonia. I think the points about, doing this process every 4 years and the ways that we can continue to monitor different metrics through the planning processes are really great. So, and I also appreciate the kind of timeline and being able to look at those projects that are going to be in the plan prior to, giving clear direction and having all of that prepared as part of the next step. So thanks for your work on this and for your presentation today.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, and then we have an executive session.